Welcome back to the channel. Today we need to go over a vehicle I've now had for over 6 months. Now many of you have got to see the journey of the actual ownership experience of this 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, and with it you've seen some ups and you've seen some downs. Although this isn't a typical vehicle I prefer to buy, like something like this, it is something that we definitely needed. Now this is used as the family hauler. It's the day-to-day vehicle for hauling around the baby. Now it does that purpose absolutely amazing. But obviously, if you've watched my last videos, you know I just want a little bit more out of it. So with some research and some test fitting, we have found out that the 35s will not work on this, the 33s will not work on this, and anything else to really get bigger than the tire size that's already on it from the factory isn't much of a difference, and if it is much of a difference, it won't clear. So it's really taken out a lot of the possibilities I had in mind for this machine. It even has less clearance available than the last body style. But with all that being said, for the purpose that we actually got it for, it's performed pretty well. Now granted, whenever I did first pick this thing up, I noticed a few things were missing, which was kind of weird. Just to start, the most noticeable thing that was so weird was of course the engine cover. So many of the Grand Cherokee models that aren't the top tier do not come with a engine cover. And the Limited is pretty much just the middle of the road. Gives you a lot of the features, but you still miss out on a lot of the extra features you could get in the high-end trim levels. Now, that's not the only thing that was actually missing. If you go back and watch my other videos, you'll see it didn't have a windshield washer nozzle reservoir. So it did have a reservoir tucked away in the fender, but it didn't have a nozzle to actually refill it. So that was just something that was missing from the factory. And I didn't notice until I ran out of windshield washer fluid and tried to fill it up. Weird. And even aside from that, there have been a few minor issues just in terms of the technology on the inside. Of course, whenever Jeep makes anything kind of new-ish within the first couple years, there are a few bugs to get out. Now that 10-inch screen on the inside, it's worked pretty well. At the very beginning, there were some issues with it, but it could have been a little bit of me not using it correctly, a little bit of the Jeep not working correctly, and it combined together to make some issues. So that being said, now everything is actually working pretty good. I still haven't been able to connect up the garage doors, so that's something that still won't work. Doesn't matter how you try to program it, it just simply doesn't work. But now that we've got all the bad stuff out of the way, let's go over what I did like. Now, since owning this thing, I can definitely say it has been 100% reliable in terms of actual mechanical reliability. So that's always something nice to see, but it's something we should expect. This is still considered a brand new vehicle. It's only got about 3,800 miles on it, even though we've had it over half a year. But we haven't had any major issues I've really had to attend to. Really just the minor issues we've already talked about. Now, aside from that, I have taken it on a few road trips and it's done extremely well. It's a really enjoyable car to actually drive on longer road trips. Don't have any issues with actually getting numb sitting in the seats. You don't have any issues with fuel economy. It actually does pretty decent. Now that we've got it broken in, we're actually averaging 20 miles a gallon. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, in the very beginning, we were only averaging probably around 16 miles a gallon, but now at 20 miles a gallon, it's pretty impressive. Of course, this has the 3.6 liter Pentastar V6 and the 8-speed automatic transmission. So it's a great combination to work well together, but really until you get them past that 3,000 mile mark, they're not going to be broken in all the way to get you the best fuel economy you can get. And it just takes a little while to get there. Now, one thing that I have absolutely hated, but is 100% my fault, is the black exterior paint color. So for the all black, it does have that metallic flake in it to help you a little bit, but it stays dirty all the time. And I know that because I've had black vehicles in the past, but I always seem to overlook it whenever I buy a new one. So that is something I would definitely stay away from on pretty much any vehicle, but definitely the vehicle you're going to be using pretty often. It's hard to keep clean. If you're going to drive it every day, it's going to be in all the different elements, and inevitably you can't keep a black vehicle clean. Now, for the interior fit, finish, and quality, it is something I was extremely impressed with from the beginning. I really hadn't seen this kind of quality in a mid-level vehicle from Jeep before, and it kind of blew me away. Now, I can honestly say that it's been holding up extremely well so far. Everything on the inside is exactly the way it was whenever it was brand new, so I haven't had a single issue with anything on the interior, aside from that big old touch screen. but it is really nice. It's extremely refined compared to the last generation, the last body style. Now for the actual LCD display, the gauge cluster itself, it is something I was extremely impressed with from the very beginning. I really think that it's made these look quite a bit newer. They really suit the vehicle a lot better than the last generation gauge cluster. Now with all that being said, everything on the actual gauge cluster has worked extremely well so far. So to say I've been impressed is honestly an understatement. I'm really impressed with the actual design, the quality, everything put together on this gauge cluster. Now with all that considered, even the interior ride quality has been really impressive. I mean, you can tell here the road noise is pretty much non-existent. Even compared to a lot of the other Jeep models that they make, the road noise is probably the quietest in this compared to pretty much anything, except for maybe the Grand Wagoneer. But the way it handles, the way it drives on the road is amazing. It's really smooth, it's a really enjoyable ride, and it's pretty much effortless. Of course, all this combined together really does make a really nice vehicle. And for the price category it's in, right around that $50,000 range, I don't believe there's too many other vehicles out there that can compare with it. Now, every manufacturer makes a $50,000 SUV at this point, and it is a really competitive market. But I believe Jeep actually has the name to stand behind what they're doing, and they've actually made a really nice product with this. With all that being said, I think it's time to trade. And before I explain why, I've got to spray this thing off. Don't buy black. So why would I want to trade this vehicle that I've actually already admitted that I do like? Well, you see, for me, it's pretty simple. It's just not that interesting. Now, of course, for the purpose I actually got this vehicle for, you know, to actually be a family hauler and to do all the family duties, it's done great. But I did have the expectation that it would be able to do a little bit more. I was hoping I'd be able to bring some pretty interesting content to you guys. Now, obviously, with that, I've been able to make a few videos, but we're pretty much at the end of the ropes in terms of what I can actually do with this thing on YouTube. I thought for sure we'd be able to clear some 33s at least and then start doing some other accessories, but really and truly, I'm kind of at a standstill with this. There's not really too much you can do to them. There's not too much aftermarket support, and even the aftermarket support that's out there isn't the best. So I'm not really interested in pursuing a build on this vehicle or really doing anything crazy, just because we're going to be capped by its actual limitations anyway. There's just not much you can do. Now, I have talked before in previous videos of maybe trading for something else, especially with a lot of comments on one of the last videos where I was talking about maybe trading one of the vehicles to get a Bronco. Maybe getting a Ford Bronco and trading this could be the absolute best option. With that being said, I'm gonna have to keep the price range somewhere around the $50,000 to $60,000 range, kind of where this one's in right now. I'm not gonna be able to take it all the way up to the Raptor R pricing if I don't get rid of the Rubicon 392. So with that being said, getting rid of this, we will be able to get something else in that $50,000 to $60,000 range. But I know it sounds crazy, but you don't have that many options of cool vehicles at the $50,000 to $60,000 range. There are plenty of normal options, but you can't be too picky whenever it comes to something that's a little bit exciting. So I don't really know what to do. Now, of course, the plan to actually trade this was already set in place a long time ago. I figured we'd keep it maybe 6 months to a year. If you've watched the channel in the past, you know the placeholder that this vehicle actually holds right now is traded pretty frequently. I did plan on hopefully being able to keep it for maybe a year, somewhere around that, and kind of do some accessories to it, build it out a little bit. I thought that would be a lot of fun on a new body style Grand Cherokee because I haven't seen it. Well, now I know I haven't seen it. But with that being said, there are a few opportunities to get something kind of cool. I have been thinking a little bit about a Gladiator Mojave. That would be decent. I mean, it would be okay. We already know what to expect with the Gladiator Mojave, but I mean, it would be kind of fun to build a Gladiator that looks the same from the front as the Rubicon 392. That's kind of my thought process behind that. But the Bronco would be a little bit more usable. I'm just not willing to pay some crazy money over sticker for a normal Bronco. It just doesn't make sense for me. I know I can get a Gladiator for MSRP, a Gladiator Mojave. We could get another Rubicon for MSRP. But for the Broncos, they're still fetching for pretty good prices. So I'm not going to be willing to pay something stupid for a base Bronco, because what we'd be getting is probably a Badlands. I would like to get the V6 twin turbocharged. and those are usually around the $50,000 range if I remember correctly. So that's something that's obviously attainable in this price range we're looking at, but it's not easily attainable just because of what they're going for. Now, the Gladiator Mojave as a fallback would be a great option. We know we could get for right around $50-something thousand and get a nice ride at that. So that's something I could definitely consider. But let me know if there's any other options out there that you guys would like to see. If there's something that I'm just not thinking of. Of course, the Jeep is primarily a Jeep-based channel, but I feel like the Bronco would translate pretty well to you guys, and a lot of my viewers would be happy to see a Bronco, especially where we can compare it to a Jeep in general. Now, if you guys haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to see next. But until next time, Godspeed.